Well, that's it for Xbox. Hey, what's cracking everybody? Welcome back to Computer Games Hardware. Well, Microsoft's got exactly what they wanted, and that is the death of Xbox. Big Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond are out. Big Phil deciding to retire from his position as CEO of Microsoft Gaming, and Sarah Bond resigning from her role as president of Xbox. This is crazy. There is a ton of ramifications. Things have not been going well for Xbox at the moment, and to me, this seems like the absolute death nail. Now, Big Phil came into Xbox around 2014, not long after the launch of the disastrous Xbox One. I don't know if you guys remember any of that, but there were big issues with the launch of the Xbox One. Phil Spencer basically came in and saved Xbox from that time. He's been the architect for stuff like Game Pass and responsible for the massive Activision Blizzard and Bethesda acquisitions. So a lot of that has been all under, Phil's watch. Now, Sarah Bond, who is the president of Xbox, has also decided to resign. And I actually feel pretty sorry for Sarah Bond because just recently she's been copying a lot of heat from gamers. She's been thrown under the bus by Xbox. She's had to toe the company line where things have sort of seemed a little bit out of place, and there's been some disparity between maybe what we'll call Xbox gaming and Microsoft gaming. There's been a little bit of an issue, and the push towards AI and stuff like that have meant that there's been a collision course for some time now. But Sarah Bond was supposed to fill in the shoes of Big Phil once he departed. She's been in that line of succession for some time now, and she's been around for just as long. So it really feels like she's not getting her dues here. And one thing I'm going to call out straight at the top of this video is Microsoft did not even mention her. They left that to Phil to wish her a farewell. Nobody else in the leadership team even mentioned her from what I saw. So I found that particularly, disparaging. Now, she's copped a lot of heat. She was the visionary behind the everything is an Xbox, and I think that's why things have started to unravel a little bit. But things started to go wrong way before Sarah's tenure and that everything is an Xbox campaign. So let's dive into a little bit of where things just started to go wrong for Xbox. Hey, just want to jump in here and say, if you're enjoying any of the content on Computer Games Hardware, please check us a like, share, and subscribe. Watching the videos really helps me out, guys. You can also get yourself one of these cool t-shirts at computergameshardware.myshopify.com. You can get yourself a t-shirt, mod mat, get yourself a mug. We've got some cool retro gaming t-shirts, Commodore 64 t-shirt, or a Nintendo Tetris t-shirt. They are very cool. Big thank you to all our new subscribers and you OGs there. You guys know I love you. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really appreciate it. For one, the Xbox One launch kicked off with it needing to be always online. It was also bundled with Microsoft Connect, which made it more expensive, like $50 to $100 more than a PS4 at the time. And then they had this crazy, it's not a console, it's a media entertainment system. It's not just for gamers. So they really went hard on this, and it did not land as expected. Sales weren't as high as what they expected, and actually when Big Phil came in, his first line of business was separating the Xbox Connect from the Xbox One console to make it more palatable and focus more on gamers. Big Phil was always famously the gamer executive. He was the one that was actually a gamer, understood the core vision of Xbox and all that sort of stuff. So putting him in place was really strategic to make sure that gamers felt seen and heard, and to steer it in that direction. So Xbox One was clearly tumultuous at the time. PlayStation had learnt the lessons of the PlayStation 3, where they went all in on an all-in-one system that was really expensive at the time, and they shifted from that to the PS4, which was, I think the slogan at the time was for the gamers or something like that. So there was a real dichotomy in the way that Xbox and Microsoft were marketing their, next-gen consoles. So with Big Phil at the helm, the ship is kind of steadying along. Xbox is clawing back some of its reputation for being a gamer console and not like a multimedia center, and then they introduced Game Pass. So this is, I think, where the the focus starts to shift from Xbox being a gaming hardware console to the subscription service. And when it was introduced, it was clear that they thought that Game Pass was going to be as big as Netflix. That's what they wanted it to be. They wanted to take over the world with the subscription service, and this was really pushed hard. Having games accessible has never been easier. It was well priced. It was a really good idea. Not long after that, 2018, I believe, they cemented Game Pass as the way to go forward from here on in. They changed everything when they decided to introduce first-party titles day and date on Game Pass. That was massive. It was still really reasonable priced, and you were getting first-party titles on Game Pass day and date. It was huge. But also, this is kind of like where the business model changes forever. Consoles don't matter anymore. We're going all in on cloud gaming. Everything is going to start becoming an Xbox. This is also the time period where the Xbox One S and X come into play, and here's where things start to get a little bit samey. With the shift to Game Pass really gaining momentum, they took their eyes off the console hardware that they had. Despite having one of the best consoles of the generation in this time period with the Xbox One X. Like, even now, it's still a good gaming console. I would pick that over the Series S any day. But this is the point where all the red flags had been starting to show. People have been asking the question if Microsoft are a console gaming, if Xbox is still going to be around. 2020 rolls around, full-blown COVID, you guys know what it's like, and we're getting new Xbox consoles. So the introduction of the Series X and S roll around, and they are good consoles. The Series X is the most powerful Xbox ever, but they still feel like an accompaniment to Game Pass. Here's where things start to really get crazy. We're moving into what I like to call the acquisition era. 2020, 2021. So Phil's out in full force buying ZeniMax Media, so that's Bethesda. So, Microsoft's getting Skyrim, we're getting Starfield. Do you guys remember how much Big Phil was anticipating the release of Starfield? It was going to save Game Pass. The price had started to creep up, and I'm pretty sure here is where Microsoft started to ask questions about, are we going to get, a return on investment for all the stuff that we're doing here? Is Game Pass really going to pay off? I think they thought that they were going to take over as the, the subscription platform to end them all. But there just wasn't enough there. So Big Phil decided to buy the world. The acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And that's right. Xbox, Big Phil was going after Call of Duty. There were reports at the time that, people purchased PlayStation 5 alone just to play one game, and that was Call of Duty. So the acquisition of Activision Blizzard was a big deal. You had the Call of Duty franchise, you had all the Blizzard games, Diablo, World of Warcraft, all of that stuff was coming in that. And, it was pretty hard for Microsoft to get the FTC on side. They challenged them at every point. It was a real tough battle for them not to become a monopoly. And, it was all in the name of servicing Game Pass. So I think this is where people start to ask the question, is this going to pay off? Are we doing the right thing here? So as the price of Game Pass goes up, the subscriptions start to dip a little bit or plateau. Then we have games like Starfield coming out. We've acquired Activision Blizzard. The first Call of Duty is going to come out. And none of these games perform as they expect. All the first-party titles have a big uptick in subscription for Game Pass when they release. As players finish them, they dip out. It didn't perform as expected. And then the inevitable happened, and I know a lot of you and a lot of the gaming and tech media called this from a mile away, but the studio closures and the layoffs just decimated the industry. Xbox have been fighting an uphill battle from 2013, and they thought that they were going to just buy their way out. Now, throughout all of this, Microsoft decides that Xbox is no longer a console anymore. That everything is an Xbox. You can have Xbox on your phone, you can have Xbox on your computer, you can have Xbox on your TV. And that was Sarah Bond's real legacy. That everything is an Xbox campaign was sort of her vision into cloud gaming and integration into subscription services and all of that. And we're finding out now that that wasn't very popular at Xbox at all. And for me, this is why this is really disappointing. It's been reported that as a result, Sarah Bond hasn't had a great relationship with other Xbox and Microsoft stakeholders because of her perception of, undervaluing the teams, the hardware, and the work that they've done. But this has been Microsoft's strategy the whole time, since all the way back in 2013. They never wanted the Xbox One to be a gaming console. It was supposed to be a living room theater device. They got Sarah Bond in that, and they've been working towards that from 2013. It hasn't worked out like that. They've tried to pivot too many times into sort of too many different sort of states of Xbox. Xbox can't be everything because to gamers, it's something very specific. And I think that Microsoft need to start valuing that a little bit more as they go into the new era, which I'm calling XSLOP. Because coming in for Phil and Sarah is Asher Sharma and Matt Booty, respectively. Now, there's a lot of talk over, whether they're going to be good and the issue that they're non-gamers and all this sort of stuff. I don't really want to get into that because actually it seems like they're saying all the right things. Like they don't want the games to be filled with AI slop. They are ushering in a new era for Xbox and focusing on hardware. They're saying all these things. And to be perfectly honest, I don't value being a gamer as the, best qualities that are a requirement to be the head of Xbox. Phil was famously a lifelong gamer and, he undersaw some serious missteps as well. So I don't think being a gamer necessarily gives you the tools that you need to be an excellent executive, right? But what I do think is that it reeks of, that corporate speak of wanting like quote unquote synergy or like streamlining business units and things like that. So the co-creator of Xbox has recently come out and said, the new role from Asher Sharma is going to be sunsetting the Microsoft gaming division and streamlining everything into the world of AI. And I think he's pretty spot on. With Big Phil retiring, it's the perfect time to rip the band-aid off, get rid of Sarah Bond as well. We'll usher in the AI guys and we will just salvage what we can. It's nice to hear that they're gonna, bring Xbox back to its former glory and stuff like that. But Microsoft have been saying this since 2013 and actively doing something different. So I haven't got a lot of confidence that we're going to see Xbox as a thing by 2030. Unfortunately, with the acquisitions and everything like that, it was going to take time for them to adjust. Every game isn't just going to be a banger based on the reputation. If you go look back when Phil acquired Activision Blizzard, we already knew Call of Duty was on the decline. It didn't seem like they were going to do anything to make it any better or change anything drastically, and they didn't. They just sort of let it come out, and it came and went, and none of the games really hit. I think they need to have a refreshed focus on what the developers can actually do, what's left of them. And what we've failed to mention so far is that the AI boom is also partly responsible for all this. From the position that Microsoft Gaming are now, it's going to be really difficult to get a foothold in the hardware space with the state of things are at the moment. No one can afford anything. The game studios are going to get worse before they get better. They need to recover from all these layoffs and all these things. The games aren't going to magically start performing well on their own, and the development cycles have been so long for games that we've been waiting for, one developer to come out with a first party game that's something. If it doesn't hit, that's basically it for the whole generation. So you're basically banking on one game every generation to make this work, and it's not enough. I fear that the thinking is that AI is going to streamline game development so we can get better quality first party titles in Game Pass, and then they can revive the hardware. But I fear that it's going to be all too late, because the human cost for people to buy in, the recovery of the gaming industry from all the layoffs is going to be too disastrous for it to come into fruition this generation, the next generation, or the one after that. So I'm really concerned that this is the death nail for Xbox, and I'm really sad about it. You know what? Because I've loved all my Xboxes, but it does feel like that I've purchased my last one. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think this is the end of Xbox, or are you hopeful that Microsoft can make a comeback? Anyway, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I wish I had a good time making this one, but I do hope that you had a good time watching it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.